Welcome, beautiful Sigma ladies. Fear is predictable until you meet the kind of woman who treats it like a hobby. Most people spend their entire lives dodging discomfort, avoiding judgment, and negotiating their way around anything that might disturb their peace. But Sigma females, they walk through the very things everyone else tiptoes around, and somehow come out calmer, sharper, and even more intimidating. Here's a wild fact. Psychologists say only about 3% of people possess a mindset that isn't governed by social fear. And guess which category Sigma females effortlessly land in? Exactly, the unsettling one. These women don't avoid fear, they study it. They don't resist pressure, they analyze it like it's a badly written TV plot. And while the world is busy panic-scrolling through life, a Sigma female is the one sitting quietly in the back thinking, relax, it's just reality exposing you. But don't get it twisted. She's not fearless because she's reckless. She's fearless because she's done the math, evaluated the emotional tax, and decided fear is simply too expensive to subscribe to monthly. And yes, while the average person is wrestling with imaginary scenarios at 2 a.m., she's probably sleeping like a cat that pays no rent. So buckle up. Because we're about to dive into the 12 scary things Sigma females face without flinching, while everyone else is busy inventing excuses, sweating bullets, and pretending they're not terrified. This is where the fearless meet the uncomfortable, and the Sigma female makes both look easy. Number 1. She isn't afraid of saying no, even when it creates social shockwaves. Most people treat no like it's radioactive. Saying it risks awkwardness, anger, or judgment, so they twist themselves into knots, trying to make it sound polite, indirect, or maybe later. Sigma females don't play that game. They say no with a precision and calmness that is almost surgical, and they don't care if it rattles the room. It's not cruelty, it's clarity. She understands that every yes carries a cost, and she refuses to spend her energy on things that don't serve her. When a Sigma female says no, it's final. She doesn't backtrack, over-explain, or apologize for making a choice that protects her time, boundaries, and mental space. People around her often feel a shockwave, especially if they've been conditioned to expect compliance. Invitations get declined, favors are refused, requests are denied, all without drama. But her no isn't just about rejecting things, it's a declaration of self-sovereignty. It signals that she doesn't need permission from anyone to make decisions about her own life. This refusal often exposes the fragile expectations of others. People who rely on manipulation, guilt, or social pressure suddenly find themselves powerless. They may react with confusion, frustration, or even hostility, but she remains unfazed because she isn't responding to their emotions. She's responding to her priorities. She sees the absurdity in bending to others' whims just to maintain comfort or approval. Saying no isn't just a practical tool for her, it's a statement of power. Every refusal is a reinforcement of her autonomy. And while most people are terrified of the social consequences of denial, she knows the real danger lies in overextending herself for the sake of pleasing others. By embracing the fear of disruption, she not only preserves her freedom, but also forces the world around her to recalibrate. For a Sigma female, no is a weapon, a shield, and a truth all at once. She delivers it calmly, unapologetically, and consistently, leaving everyone else to deal with the ripple effects. In a world addicted to agreement and compliance, her ability to say no freely is nothing short of unsettling and, to her, entirely liberating. Number 2. She isn't afraid of being disconnected from group identity. Most people cling to labels like a life raft: gender, politics, religion, social circles, trends. They wear them like armor, because the world has convinced them that belonging is survival. Sigma females, on the other hand, don't follow the script. They don't need to belong to feel valid, and they aren't interested in the comfort of being one of the group. She doesn't define herself by the expectations, beliefs, or opinions of any collective. Instead, she moves through society untethered, creating her own moral compass, her own rules, and her own standards. Being disconnected from group identity doesn't make her lost. It makes her untouchable. When others are trapped in the chaos of peer pressure, groupthink, and social validation, she is free to think, act, and evolve without interference. She doesn't need the approval of a crowd, because she understands that the moment you depend on external validation, you give away power. While most people are busy performing for attention, she's quietly observing, learning, and building strength where no one else dares to. Her detachment is unsettling to those who thrive on conformity. People expect alignment. They expect her to nod, agree, or at least hesitate before breaking from the norm. But she doesn't hesitate. She is comfortable being the anomaly, the outlier, the person who refuses to be reduced to a category or stereotype. She doesn't care if others feel confused, judged, or intimidated by her independence, because she knows their discomfort is a reflection of their own dependence, not her rebellion. This isn't rebellion for attention. It's self-preservation and self-mastery. Every time she refuses to be boxed in by social labels, she reinforces her autonomy. Her life isn't dictated by the tide of trends or collective opinion. It flows according to her principles, her ambitions, and her truths. And in a world where most people live trapped inside the identity cages handed to them at birth, a Sigma female walking freely, untethered, and unconstrained becomes something profoundly intimidating. Her disconnection isn't loneliness. It's power, clarity, and freedom. She isn't afraid because she has already chosen herself over everyone else's story. Number 3. She isn't afraid of demonstrating extreme emotional control. Most people wear their emotions on their sleeves. A raised voice, a nervous laugh, or a visible panic is enough to tip their entire day into chaos. Sigma females, however, operate on a different frequency. She doesn't just manage her emotions, she masters them with an almost surgical precision. Anger, fear, excitement, disappointment, all of it exists beneath the surface, but it never controls her actions or decisions. People around her notice the calm in situations that would have others spiraling, and that calm is terrifying. It's not indifference, it's command. Her emotional control is a weapon and a shield at the same time. While most people react impulsively, she observes, analyzes, and responds strategically. She doesn't let temporary discomfort dictate her choices, and she never hands the power of her reaction over to someone else. When others try to provoke her, push boundaries, or create drama, they fail because she doesn't play by the same rules. She understands that losing composure is giving the game away, and she refuses to participate in that surrender. What makes it even more unnerving is that she doesn't perform this control. It isn't a show or a calculated effort to intimidate. It's natural. Even in chaos, she appears unshakable, almost untouchable. People can't figure her out because they are used to reading emotions as cues for manipulation, leverage, or vulnerability. She removes all of that. She doesn't give them anything to exploit. Extreme emotional control also gives her freedom. She can walk into any conflict, high-pressure situation, or tense environment and maintain clarity where everyone else is clouded by stress. She makes decisions without distraction, acts without hesitation, and maintains her energy for what matters most. Her calm exposes the instability of those around her and forces them to confront their own lack of control. In a world addicted to emotional reactions, a Sigma female's steady, deliberate composure is not just unusual. It's unsettling. She doesn't fear the storm because she has learned to be the calm at the center of it. And that quiet mastery, that deliberate restraint, is what makes her truly intimidating. Number 4, she isn't afraid of losing people who can't handle her standards. Most people cling to relationships, friendships, and connections out of fear. Fear of being alone, fear of judgment, fear of missing out. Sigma females don't operate like that. She doesn't lower her standards to keep someone comfortable, nor does she compromise her values just to maintain appearances. If a person cannot meet her expectations or match her energy, she lets them go without hesitation, without guilt, and without looking back. She understands that tolerating mediocrity or inconsistency in others comes at a cost to her own growth, peace, and sense of self. Her standards aren't arbitrary. They are a reflection of how she values her time, her intellect, and her emotional bandwidth. She doesn't expect perfection, but she does expect alignment with her principles, honesty, and mutual respect. When someone fails to meet that, she doesn't negotiate her boundaries or dilute her expectations to make the relationship easier. Most people would panic at the thought of losing connections over standards, but she views it as a natural filtration system. Losing people who cannot keep up isn't a loss, it's liberation. This makes her presence intimidating. Many people are used to bending, compromising, or tolerating just to maintain peace. The Sigma female refuses to play that game. She exposes the fragility of relationships built on convenience or fear, and she refuses to invest in anything that doesn't contribute to her growth or align with her integrity. The ripple effect is clear. Those who remain in her life are stronger, more conscious, and better equipped to handle her energy. Her detachment isn't coldness, it's precision. She understands that her path will naturally cause people to fall away, and she accepts it without resentment. Being surrounded only by those who can match her standards amplifies her power, focus, and influence. For her, it's not about controlling people. It's about curating her environment in a way that honors her evolution. Losing those who cannot handle her is not a failure. It's proof of her uncompromising commitment to herself, and that unwavering clarity is as unsettling as it is commanding. Number 5. She isn't afraid to be the mirror that shows people their own flaws. Most people avoid confrontation, criticism, or anything that might reflect their weaknesses back at them. They surround themselves with yes men, distractions, or comforting illusions to avoid the discomfort of self-awareness. Sigma females don't operate that way. She doesn't shy away from exposing the truth, even when it's uncomfortable or inconvenient. Her presence alone can force people to see themselves more clearly than they ever wanted to. She holds up a mirror, not to humiliate but to reveal, and she does it without apology. She doesn't sugarcoat or soften the truth for comfort. If someone's behavior is lazy, dishonest, or shallow, she acknowledges it through action, demeanor, or words, and it often leaves the person unsettled. Most people panic when faced with self-reflection. They make excuses, deflect, or lash out. She doesn't fear the reaction because she isn't responsible for managing someone else's insecurities. Her job isn't to make others comfortable. Her job is to remain aligned with reality and integrity. Being the mirror is a quiet form of power. People around her begin to adjust, second-guess, or confront their own inconsistencies simply because she refuses to compromise her clarity. She doesn't attack. She simply exists in a way that exposes the cracks in the foundations of others. Her energy, confidence, and precision in handling her own life inadvertently highlight the areas where others fall short. It's not personal, but it feels personal. And that's exactly why it intimidates people. What makes her truly unsettling is her lack of fear regarding the fallout. She doesn't need to be liked or accepted to maintain her boundaries. She knows that the discomfort she creates is temporary, and that it forces growth if the other person is capable of it. She walks through life as an unflinching observer, illuminating weaknesses, inconsistencies, and self-deceptions wherever she goes. Her presence challenges people to face themselves, and few can handle that intensity. Being a mirror doesn't make her cruel. It makes her honest, unstoppable, and extraordinary. While the world hides behind masks, she thrives in reality, and that alone makes her a force that is quietly terrifying. Number 6. She isn't afraid of choosing the hard path, when the easy one offers more rewards. Most people chase comfort, convenience, and instant gratification. They take the easy route, even when it's clear it won't build anything meaningful, because it's less risky and requires less effort. Sigma females operate differently. She sees the easy path for what it truly is, a trap that looks like reward but robs growth, strength, and self-respect. She's willing to take the hard path, even if it's lonelier, longer, and far less appreciated, because she understands that true power and mastery are forged in challenge. The hard path is not glamorous. It doesn't promise applause, social validation, or immediate recognition. It comes with sacrifices. People may misunderstand her, opportunities may be delayed, and critics will question every choice. Most would retreat under that pressure. She embraces it. She knows the easy path is a shortcut, a temporary comfort, but the hard path builds resilience, clarity, and independence that no shortcut can ever provide. She calculates the long-term gain and is willing to endure discomfort now for a lifetime of control and freedom. Her choices unsettle people because they challenge conventional thinking. Others prioritize short-term success, but she thinks in layers, decades ahead. Her refusal to conform to the allure of ease makes her unpredictable, almost untouchable. She isn't competing with anyone else's timeline or metrics. She measures everything by her own standards, and she knows that only the difficult decisions create durable, unshakable growth. Taking the hard path also separates her from those who are unwilling to rise to the occasion. It filters out the weak, the lazy, and the impatient. The people who remain alongside her are those capable of matching her vision and discipline. She doesn't fear solitude or resistance because she values progress and mastery over comfort and conformity. For a Sigma female, the hard path isn't punishment, it's a choice. It's proof that she's willing to endure short-term struggle for long-term sovereignty. She isn't afraid of difficulty because she has reframed struggle as fuel, discipline as freedom, and obstacles as the very things that elevate her above everyone else. Choosing the hard path is not reckless. It's deliberate, powerful, and terrifying to anyone still trapped by the allure of ease. Number 7. She isn't afraid to abandon the version of herself that others fell in love with. Most people cling to who they used to be because it's comfortable and expected. Friends, partners, and colleagues often define you by your past behavior, your past choices, or the version of yourself they thought they understood. Sigma females don't live in the cages others build for them. She evolves relentlessly, and when her growth no longer fits the expectations of those around her, she doesn't hesitate to abandon the version of herself that people fell in love with. This is not about being inconsistent or fickle. It's about prioritizing truth over approval. She understands that clinging to old identities out of fear of judgment is a slow suffocation of the soul. People may be shocked or hurt, but she knows that real connection can only exist with the authentic, present version of herself. If someone can't handle the evolution, that's their limitation, not hers. She refuses to shrink to fit into someone else's comfort zone. Abandoning a past self requires courage because it often comes with confrontation, confusion, or even conflict. People will resist, try to anchor her to the familiar, and even project guilt onto her for changing. but she doesn't flinch. She knows that growth is non-negotiable, and anything or anyone that tries to stop it is not worth her time. She moves forward unapologetically, leaving behind outdated roles, toxic patterns, and expectations that no longer serve her purpose. This ability makes her unpredictable and intimidating. Those who thought they understood her quickly realize they don't. She isn't beholden to their perception, their nostalgia, or their sense of entitlement to her past. Every transformation is a declaration of independence, a signal that she answers only to herself, and that her journey is defined by self-mastery rather than social approval. For a Sigma female, abandoning a previous self is a necessary act of survival and power. She refuses to carry the weight of outdated versions to please others. Instead, she embraces evolution with precision, clarity, and fearlessness. She is not afraid of leaving behind what no longer serves her, because her loyalty is to her own growth, not anyone else's comfort. Number 8. She's not afraid to be impossible to decode. Most people crave being understood. They want validation, sympathy, and connection, so they lay themselves bare, revealing emotions, motives, and weaknesses freely. Sigma females don't work that way. She doesn't offer herself as an open book for anyone to skim or judge. Instead, she cultivates a complexity that keeps people guessing, reading between the lines, and often failing. She understands that predictability is power surrendered, and she refuses to give it away. Being impossible to decode isn't about being secretive for the sake of mystery. It's deliberate control over her own energy, actions, and presence. She doesn't perform for attention, and she doesn't conform to expectations just to make others comfortable. People who try to analyze her quickly realize they're outmatched. Her choices, words, and moods aren't random, but they don't follow patterns that outsiders can exploit. She thrives in this tension because it protects her autonomy and keeps manipulation at bay. Her unpredictability unnerves people because it forces them to confront their assumptions. Most humans are hardwired to categorize, label, and predict, and when someone defies these systems, it triggers anxiety. She doesn't apologize for the discomfort she creates because she knows it's a byproduct of her independence. People can't control her, can't pressure her, and often can't even anticipate her next move. That makes her presence magnetic, intimidating, and profoundly unsettling at the same time. Being impossible to decode also means she chooses when to reveal herself and when to remain quiet. She shares selectively, allowing glimpses of depth without offering the full picture. This isn't manipulation. It's preservation. Every piece of herself she keeps private is a safeguard against exploitation, drama, and energy drains. In a world obsessed with transparency and instant comprehension, a Sigma female's complexity becomes her fortress. She doesn't fear being misunderstood because she knows that true influence doesn't come from being liked or understood. It comes from commanding her space, controlling her narrative, and moving through life untouchable and unpredictable. Her opacity is not just a trait, it's a power. Number 9. She's not afraid of knowing more than the people in charge. Most people fear knowledge that challenges authority. They worry about overstepping, offending, or being punished for knowing too much. Sigma females operate differently. She doesn't limit herself to what's deemed acceptable by those in power. She seeks knowledge relentlessly, understanding that information is power, and power is freedom. She isn't intimidated by titles, positions, or hierarchy, because she knows insight doesn't belong to anyone. It belongs to those brave enough to pursue it. Knowing more than the people in charge isn't about showing off or creating conflict. It's about positioning herself beyond dependency. She sees the weaknesses, blind spots, and agendas of those around her, and she doesn't let them dictate her boundaries or decisions. While others defer out of fear or respect, she observes critically and applies her understanding strategically. This makes her untouchable in situations where others would feel obligated to comply. Her intellectual independence is unsettling to those who rely on control and authority. When leaders expect blind adherence, her awareness disrupts the balance. She can navigate the system, anticipate moves, and avoid traps that would ensnare someone less perceptive. She doesn't need approval to act, and she doesn't feel guilty for knowing more than the people supposedly in charge. That knowledge gives her confidence, precision, and the ability to act without hesitation, even under pressure. This fearlessness with knowledge also sets her apart in subtle ways. While most people consume information passively, she analyzes, questions, and challenges it. She uses insight as a compass, not a weapon, and her autonomy grows with every revelation. People around her sense it instinctively. She knows things they don't, sees connections they miss, and moves with clarity they envy but can't understand. For a Sigma female, knowing more than authority isn't arrogance. It's survival, strategy, and empowerment. She refuses to be intimidated or constrained by hierarchy because she recognizes that knowledge is the ultimate equalizer. Where others see limits, she sees opportunity, and that alone makes her presence both dangerous and magnetic. Number 10. She isn't afraid to tell the truth. People aren't ready, for most people avoid uncomfortable truths. They sugarcoat, hide, or stay silent because they fear backlash, rejection, or confrontation. Sigma females operate on a different level. She understands that truth is not negotiable, and if it needs to be said, she will say it, no matter how inconvenient, unwelcome, or shocking it might be. She doesn't tiptoe around feelings to keep the peace. She delivers reality with precision, clarity, and an unwavering commitment to authenticity. Telling the truth people aren't ready for takes courage because it often generates resistance. People may react with anger, denial, or attempts to discredit her, but she isn't intimidated by emotional reactions. She knows that discomfort is temporary, while living in lies or illusions is corrosive over time. Her willingness to speak the unspoken sets her apart from everyone else who chooses comfort over clarity. It's not about drama or dominance, it's about integrity. She refuses to dilute reality to spare fragile egos, because she knows that doing so ultimately harms both parties. This trait makes her presence unsettling. People are used to filtered conversations, half-truths, and evasive answers. When a Sigma female speaks her mind, she cuts through the noise, exposing false narratives, hidden agendas, or self-deception. Her words force reflection, accountability, and sometimes action. It's a form of influence that doesn't rely on charm or persuasion. It relies on honesty, and honesty is a mirror few can ignore. She also knows timing and delivery, which amplifies the impact. She doesn't broadcast truth recklessly. She places it where it matters most. At the moment it will create clarity or spark necessary change. That makes her extremely strategic. A Sigma female's fearlessness with truth is a silent power. She refuses to be complicit in lies, manipulation, or ignorance, and that refusal can be terrifying for those accustomed to safety in illusion. Speaking the truth isn't just a choice for her. It's a standard, and anyone who underestimates her ability to do it will quickly learn that facing her reality is unavoidable, inescapable, and often transformative. Number 11. She's not afraid of being unreachable. Most people live in constant availability. They answer calls, respond to messages immediately, and shape their schedules around others' expectations. Sigma females operate on a completely different wavelength. She values her time, energy, and mental space above social convenience. Being unreachable is not a flaw or a statement of rudeness. It's a deliberate choice, a boundary, and a declaration of independence. She doesn't bend to the pressure of constant connection because she understands that availability comes at a cost, and that cost is often too high for the average person to measure. Her unreachability unsettles people because it breaks their sense of control. Society trains people to expect instant compliance, immediate attention, and constant access. When a Sigma female ignores these unspoken rules, she forces others to confront their own dependency, impatience, and sense of entitlement. They may feel anxious, frustrated, or even resentful, but she doesn't engage with that energy. She remains steady, grounded, and unapologetic, knowing that the discomfort is a reflection of their expectations, not her actions. Being unreachable isn't about avoidance, it's about preservation. She protects her emotional bandwidth, mental clarity, and personal priorities by refusing to be consumed by obligations that don't serve her. She doesn't disappear out of spite or ego. She disappears because she recognizes the value of solitude and focus. In a world where attention is constantly demanded and manipulated, her ability to step away becomes a rare form of power. This trait also gives her the advantage of observation. While others rush to react or respond, she watches, analyzes, and calculates without interference. Decisions made in solitude are sharper, intentions clearer, and reactions more deliberate. Her inaccessibility becomes a filter, separating those who understand her rhythm from those who expect immediate compliance. For a Sigma female, being unreachable is not a weakness, it's strategy. It signals self-control, autonomy, and an unshakable sense of self. In a society addicted to access and distraction, her ability to step outside the noise is magnetic, disarming, and profoundly intimidating. She is not afraid to be absent because she knows her presence is measured by quality, not quantity. Number 12. She isn't afraid of being the only one who sees what's really happening. Most people rely on the consensus of the crowd to define reality. They look around, check reactions, and let others' opinions shape their understanding of situations. Sigma females don't operate that way. She trusts her own perception, her own judgment, and her own instincts, even if it means standing alone. She is not intimidated by isolation, criticism, or disbelief, because she understands that truth does not require validation from the majority. Being the only one who sees what's really happening can be a lonely position. Others may dismiss, ignore, or ridicule her observations because they are uncomfortable, inconvenient, or go against popular belief. But she doesn't compromise. She values clarity over comfort, insight over approval. While people remain blind to the nuances, lies, or manipulations around them, she observes, evaluates, and acts with precision. Her awareness gives her an advantage that others can't even begin to anticipate. Her clarity often makes others uneasy. Most people are uncomfortable when someone refuses to conform to collective illusions or accepted narratives. When she points out the truth, it isn't delivered to hurt, it's delivered to illuminate. But illumination is rarely welcome when it disrupts the safety of ignorance. People may feel threatened, insecure, or exposed, and that tension only reinforces her power. What makes her presence formidable is her unwavering confidence in her own vision. She doesn't second-guess herself for the sake of harmony or social approval. Her decisions, actions, and boundaries are informed by what she perceives, not what others tell her to see. She moves through life with a quiet certainty that unsettles anyone dependent on group consensus or shallow judgment. For a Sigma female, being the only one who sees clearly is not a burden. It's a source of strength. It allows her to anticipate outcomes, protect her energy, and act strategically while others remain caught in collective delusion. She isn't afraid of solitude, misunderstanding, or opposition because she knows that truth is a solitary strength, and seeing what others miss makes her untouchable, unstoppable, and profoundly intimidating. In a world where fear governs most people's actions, Sigma females exist as exceptions, uncompromising, unapologetic, and undeniably powerful. They walk through life untouched by the anxieties, pressures, and expectations that cripple the majority. Every decision they make, every boundary they set, and every truth they speak is a reflection of their relentless commitment to themselves, not the approval of others. They aren't fearless in the naive sense. They've calculated, mastered, and embraced what others avoid, turning every potential weakness into a source of strength. Their presence is a challenge, their clarity is unsettling, and their independence is intoxicating. Sigma females don't just navigate the world. They define their own rules, disrupt the ordinary, and exist on a plane where few dare to follow. Understanding them isn't about admiration, it's about recognition. Recognizing the raw, unapologetic courage it takes to live authentically, to defy social norms, and to remain untethered from expectation. They are mirrors, catalysts, and forces of transformation, both terrifying and inspiring. And while many will never grasp the depths of their power, those who do witness a level of self-mastery that few will ever achieve. If this insight into the fearless, unshakable nature of Sigma females resonated with you, don't just scroll past. Hit that subscribe button to stay connected to content that reveals the extraordinary and the unseen. Smash the like button to show you appreciate understanding what most people will never grasp, and leave a comment sharing your thoughts, experiences, or reactions. Let's build a community that respects independence and power. Finally, share this video with anyone who needs a reminder that true strength often lives in silence, subtlety, and unshakable self-possession. Dive deep, stay aware, and never settle for ordinary, because Sigma females are living proof that fear is optional and power is deliberate.